think I've just about got it right. We should be able to go live now. What do you think, Steve?
Perfect.
Good?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Okay, well, we are live now, Volt. Just to let you know. But hi, everyone. Sorry we are a little late. We were trying to iron out some technical issues. Once again, it is not my hair, and I resent you guys for thinking that is the case. If anybody was going to take a while on their hair, it'd be Steve. Which, by the way, hello, Steve.
Hey, yeah, I did my hair, but I pulled it back today, so all good.
You did.
Mine takes 5 minutes,
you're
not 3 hours like yours.
You're rocking it.
So I want to know is how much. Wait, I want to know how much hairspray did you go through this weekend?
This weekend?
Or gel?
Not that much, actually. Oddly enough, like it was so boom, 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 boom. Like, you need to be here, and then doing this here, and it was very scheduled. So I didn't have a lot of hair time, and I missed it. You'll definitely see some pictures where that shows. And I actually wore that hat on Sunday, so I didn't fix my hair at all on Sunday. So you missed, Steve, by the way. You missed the hair story and what happened with me in Walmart.
Yeah. Was that something Shannon did or something?
No, that's something that I did. I got drunk and I got blackout drunk and then woke up at 3:30 in Walmart. Had no clue how I got there.
Were you naked?
I was not naked.
Okay. Well, it happens to the best of us.
Can't confirm.
I think that's that's happened to at least one of us, or at least all of us at least once.
So let's say hey to our guest real quick. We are joined tonight by Volt, who answered a post that I made earlier today on Twitter, and Volt is apparently disappointed that he asked one of his questions when he came in was who else is coming in the call, and I said, well, no one. You've just got me and Steve all to yourself tonight. And he just sounded very very down about that. And I said, are you disappointed? And he said, a little bit. And I said, well, what's the matter, Volt? He said, well, he was expecting someone more interesting.
I said slightly more interesting. There's a difference.
I must say, I am heartbroken right now. I am absolutely. I've been called many things, sir. Many things in my day. Uninteresting has never been one of them.
Slightly uninteresting.
I wave my handkerchief at you. How dare you, sir? How dare you? I'm just kidding. Bo, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about who you are.
On the internet, I go by Volt or Voltaire. I run a small YouTube channel that's under 300 subscribers. I mostly talk to I tend to interview people from all over the political spectrum, and I decided to come on here today and just discuss my views on religion and how it impact on our development, our social evolution.
How would you best describe your religious views?
Christian, but I choose to keep that side to myself a bit more personal because I view this platform not to be the best way to argue for the existence of God. I tend to just argue the impact of religions and on our culture and political institutions.
So, by the way, pragmatic culture in the live chat says, "Oh shiznit, it's Voltaire. Hi, Volt." So he wanted to make sure to say hey to you.
Hey, Prag.
James Hogue, Kyle, does that haircut have a name? I suggest the gnome over.
That's cute.
Time him out. I'm just kidding. Don't time him out. Okay, so Volt, when you say platform, when you say the platform is limiting, can you be more specific? What do you mean by the the platform isn't really made for that. What is the platform? Nope.
Sorry,
Something.
sorry, kind
There
of
you go.
lagged on my end.
That's okay. What is the platform?
Like this social media platform, like this just talking to each other through screens. I find that to be very, very limiting because it allows for a greater degree of miscommunications and poorly, poorly communicated thoughts and arguments.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer like if I had my way, I prefer like a more face-to-face discussion, just something more.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I think it brings more honesty to the table.
Okay. And what got you started in this? I'm just getting a couple of preliminary questions out of the way just to kind of um, introduce you to the audience. It's your first time here, but what brought you into this whole conversation?
I was largely like this conversation on atheism versus religion thing. Like
Mm?
that's the
Yeah.
question, right?
Yeah.
Just one of those things. Like one of those things was immensely popular back in the day, and I decided that I can. I feel confident enough to comment on these topics and how religion um, impact our institutions, our society, all that. And when I see the atheist side, I'm kind of like in the anti-atheist camp because I view them to be peddling some bad ideas that could lead to rather can lead to some. It could have negative effects on our society. Like, for example, I'm really against scientism, which often been accused of the anti-theist side of the debate, and I don't really like the Four Horsemen. Well, I don't like Sam Harris more specifically, but it's for me overall, it's more so focused on the morality and what's way the proper way to govern a society, which principles that should ultimately govern a society. That's my answer.
Hmm. Okay, so I think
Real
this is
quick,
going to be a.
can you real quick just tell us what he means by scientism?
The fetishization of the scientific method.
The fetishization. So it's okay. So somebody who fetishizes the scientific method. Okay, hadn't quite heard that descriptor before.
When you say that though, what to you is fetishizing the scientific method? Like, what would be an example of that?
Well, let's say okay, let's say something like um, let's say something like Marxism, which sort of places itself as a scientific system and sort of details what is going to happen within further human development, which is to say communism, and they have these like historical materialism or something like that. It's just like this is to say I'm trying to say is that Marxism present itself as a scientific doctrine. This is to say that this is just a purely
I
they just
don't think it
this is a
does.
purely analytical framework, and they tend to have these predictions um, about what should happen, which is inevitably communism, something absurd like that. And
Wait, so Marxism is now no longer a political societal movement. It's actually
no,
it's not.
like
It has nothing to do
I'm
with
using that
political
as
and
a
economics. It's
example
now
as
scientific.
scientism. Like there's other example is utilitarianism, which is kind of a more massive topic to get into because we tend to never mind on that, but
I mean,
Sci-
I was on board that I'm against scientism too, but I use it in a way that's usually more ubiquitously used. Scientism is generally held as the incorrect use of the scientific method in places where it's not appropriate to use it, which does happen. That's actually the most common typical use of scientism. But yeah, I see a lot of Christians take that and change it to something to be really, really kind of bizarre. Stipulative
Not
definitions that
really
you use.
bizarre, but it's more so. I use the word fetishization, like this overemphasis of the scientific method, when the scientific method has a clearly stated purpose, and need to be followed that purpose. We don't need to.
So I
We
think you
don't
agree
need
there
to.
in the definitions. I think that mean that's pretty much close to what Steve just said.
Yeah,
Using that
it
it's
seems
not
so.
warranted. But I think it should be pointed out too, though, as we talked before that we went live. You do adhere to mainstream science, I guess, in terms of like evolution, and you do not follow young Earth creation. You're not a Bible literalist,
No.
correct? Okay.
I can't believe you're still talking about young Earth creationism.
Well, here's why it's important that you point that out when you're going to be talking about what our nation is sort of built on, and when you say scientism, you're against that. That usually comes with people who follow Ken Hovind's train of thought, which is that evolution is a sort of evil witchcraft, and that creation is the way that it goes. They use those terms interchangeably. So I mean, it's a fair question, and it's going to shape the seriousness to which everyone watching takes your argument. See what I'm saying?
Okay.
So go ahead and jump in and give us why your reasons that you think that we were founded with these Christian principles.
Christian principles. Okay, this is going to be a long conversation, or I'm going to talk for a very long time, but bear with me here.
Sure.
When I say like our society, our culture in the Western Hemisphere, in West Europe and United States, that it's ultimately built on Christian principles, that our current democratic system, our pluralist democracy, comes from institutions from the Catholic Church, which ironically is not exactly democratic in its internal organization. But this is to say that an important institution that's been foundational to Western development after the fall of the Roman Empire, i.e., its development of the rule of law. The Catholic Church sort of declared itself morally above the state, that they should follow, that the states, this is to say that the states are not above God in their worldview, in that worldview. And this sort of led to this gradual evolution of pluralist democracy, ironically enough. You have the Protestant Reformation, and you have this basically, you basically have this fragmentation and diversification of Christianity all over Europe, and through there we see this fragmentation of state, politics, and religion, and this story just had this profound effect. This eventually leads to the Enlightenment and to all that other good stuff. And I take a view that these religious principles, that these religious traditions sort of just lay out the groundwork for Western society and politics and philosophy as well. It's am I losing you guys or no? Like, am I being clear?
No,
I have no idea what you just said,
I'm
to be honest with you. So I'm gonna
following you.
sit back and just say I'm lost.
I'm
I'm fine
following you
with that.
so I'm following you so far. If you could can you name off some specific examples?
Okay. Okay. In the I want to say the 16th. Yeah, was it the 16th? All right. I'm in the 16th century, around that era. The Catholic Church sort of declared itself as being morally higher than the state. Like the Holy Roman Empire, all that good stuff. Like that they tried to declare universality all over Western Europe, and that sort of broke down with the 30 Years' War, with the Peace of Westphalia of 1648, which stripped religious authority over war. It's a bit more it's a bit more complicated, but it's a more deeper story than that. But I just getting to the fundamentals. Um, it's I'm trying to state is that these religious wars of the past sort of just the religious war and this fragmentation with the Protestant Reformation sort of sort of laid the groundwork that European society will follow, which is the eventual breakdown of the ancient regimes, the monarchies, and the other stuff. This breakdown of the autocratic regimes. So,
Right. But you said that the statement that you made to me was that religious principles shaped our political institutions, and I take that to mean that you're saying that.
Okay. And
Yeah. How is that?
Our religion? It's okay. Now, okay. Now I have to think about something else. Okay. Let's say let's take a more famous and more relevant example. Like, let's say the founding of the United States of America, and it's mostly that um, the culture of the settlers, specifically in New England, the Puritans, sort of laid out the foundation, what is considered to be constitutionalism, which is considered to be the norm of modern society, and mm, it took like really harsh social conservatism to get where we are, but this is to say that these religious principles lay out the bulwark to our current polity, that for example the founding fathers, well, they're not exactly religious, but John Adams was the most religious, George Washington the second, Thomas Jefferson was the skeptic. I don't know what Alexander Hamilton beliefs were, but
John Adams, you said, was the most religious?
huh?
Do you believe that John Adams believed that the United States was founded on Christian principles?
Yeah, sort of. He actually was the most religious of the founding fathers. He actually
How would
famously
that
say
be?
that the Bible provided the only system for the republic or something like that. But
What about in 1796 when he signed the Treaty of Tripoli, saying, and I quote, "The United States is almost certainly not founded on Christianity."
Yeah, and he was also he denounced the Trinity too. He was a Unitarian. He did not accept any of the Christian Trinitarian concepts.
The exact quote is, "The government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion." This was it was declared by the parties in a treaty with a pirate group that existed between the two forces in 1796. So that's him saying right there in black and white, which was ratified by Congress unanimously.
Okay. All the founding fathers pretty much unanimously believe that in order to maintain a republic, a polity, that that religion that provided that necessary framework of providing that sense of virtue and maintaining a healthy society. And even about let's see when about nearly 30 years later, Alexis de Tocqueville,
Mm-hmm.
the author of Democracy in America.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he later observed the voluntary civic activities in America at the time, which was in 1835 when he published the book and when he visited America. And he later he later noted the impact the impact of religion on the impact. This is to say that religious institution and church is a gateway to civic nationalism and civic responsibility. This is what I'm probably should have said from the start, but no, to get straight to the point. But yeah,
I think I understand where you're trying to go, but I think to say that the founding fathers are the people who framed the Constitution and the sort of the framework by which this country was built couldn't be more, in my opinion, secular. They went at great lengths to try to keep religion as far away from this framework as possible. And I want to read a quote from Thomas Jefferson, which I found to be just very telling. In 1823, he said, "The day will come when the mystical generation of Jesus, by the supreme being in the womb of a virgin, will be classed with the fable of the generation of Minerva in the brain of Jupiter. But we may hope that the dawn of reason and freedom of thought in these United States will do away with all of this artificial scaffolding." These don't sound like words from someone who was had a Christian mindset while he was framing out or laying the groundwork for this country, does it?
Starting. Had to get something real quick.
Okay.
Sorry, missed what you said.
Well,
You said
I'll sum it up for you. Thomas Jefferson in 1823 said, to paraphrase, "There will be a day where we will laugh about the fable of Jesus just as we did about the Minerva and the brain of Jupiter, and hope that one day reason and freedom of thought in these United States will do away with all of this artificial scaffolding." So there's the second one of our founding fathers, John Adams, saying that we are not in any sense a Christian nation. Number two, Thomas Jefferson saying that this Jesus story about the Immaculate Conception and being born of a virgin needs to be classified as a fable along with the other Greek mythologies.
Okay. Yeah, I said at some point that Jefferson was more of a skeptic, but he did. Thing about the founding fathers and their religious belief was definitely towards more skepticism and ambivalence. And you could have said that you could have used George Washington farewell speech and saying like where he noted that you don't necessarily have to be moral. You don't have necessarily have religion to be moral, where he made that really nuanced distinction. But I tend to agree that the founding fathers definitely view religion in a more positive light, or if sometimes necessary to provide that to provide a shared sense of morality and common traditions. In that sense, that they're clearly against the idea of a theocracy, but on a more decentralized, a more voluntary level, I say they supported religious institutions wholeheartedly because they viewed it to be necessary to provide that virtue, a healthy, active democracy
Hmm.
or a republic.
Do you know who Thomas Paine is?
Yeah, and he was crazy. I don't like him.
He was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let me read one of his quotes about organized religion. Whenever we read the obscene stories, the voluptuous debaucheries, the cruel and torturous executions, the unrelenting vindictiveness with which more than half the Bible is filled, it would be more consistent that we call it the word of a demon than the word of a god.
Yeah, Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine at the time. The reason why I don't like Thomas Paine because he was considered to be a radical at the time, like the most
Mm-hmm.
radical of out of the founding fathers, probably second only to
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Jefferson himself. But um,
These are the founding fathers. Now, whether you would classify them as radical or not, these are the people who are framing the nation, and laying the groundwork by which we still to this day will abide by this document. And so, my point to you, or my question to you, is how can we say that we are built with? I'll put it to you this way: there's a good quote, and it escapes me who said this right now, but it America is not a nation, or America is not a Christian nation. It's a nation of Christians, and there's a quickness to sort of get those confused. We are not a nation that is founded on Christianity. We just happen to be a nation that is filled with Christians. You see the distinction there?
yes,
Would you agree with that distinction?
and it's sort of go into the question how you define nation. Then, like, is the nation defined by its constitutional tradition or by the will, or the nation is defined by a common culture, language, and traditions?
Well,
And
that's a good question. Now, if I'm gonna let me go this route. If I'm going to, let's say I'm going to found an organization. Steve and I are going to go in and build this club, right? We're going to build this private club for wizards and gnomes, right? The the if Steve and I are Christian, you're going to know that based on the language that's in our organization's founding documents, our bylaws, anything like that. If we were built on a Christian nation and they had that intention, you would see God in the document. It would say that we were, by God and
Can,
country or something like. It just doesn't.
can I read something from Thomas Paine's? He wrote a book called Age of Reason.
He's
It's a
crazy.
very, very good book. Yeah, he's a real nutter. And I've read parts of it before over the years, but I found this that I was looking for, because he actually explicitly at one part in the beginning, he explains his position very clearly, and I think it really does lend to his overall disposition when it comes to things like the Constitution. So I'm going to read this real quick if I may. He says, several of my colleagues and others, my fellow citizens of France, have given me the example of making their voluntary and individual professions of faith. I will make mine, and I do this with all sincerity and frankness, which the mind of a man communicates with itself. I believe in one God and no more. I hope for happiness beyond this life. I believe in the equality of man and believe religious duties that constitute in doing justice, loving mercy, and endeavoring to make our fellow creatures happy. But least it's to be supposed that I believe in many other things in addition to these. I shall, in the progress of this work, declare the things I do not believe and my reasons for not believing them. I do not believe in the creed professions by the Jewish church, by the Roman church, by the Greek church, by the Turkish church, by the Protestant church, nor by any church that I know of. My own mind is my own church. All national institutions of churches, whether Jewish, Christian, or Turkish, appear to me no other than human inventions, set up to terrify and enslave mankind and monopolize for power and profit.
okay,
That's
can I
that's
quote
a
a
pretty
book?
scathing. Yeah, well, hang on. Just that real quick. That's a pretty scathing rebuke of churches by Paine. Would you agree?
Yeah, and like I said, he was kind of crazy because of other reasons I don't want to get into. because why the fundamental core why I disagree with him. But can I quote something real quick from a book called "Who Are We? The Challenge to America's National Identity" by Samuel P. Huntington?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, but I just don't know what makes him crazy by what I just read, though. I wouldn't
No,
really kind
like
of wish you would address
it's
that, but that's
something
okay.
else, and it's something else. We might talk about it later, but it's not what he said. It's just more so what he actively supported and some of his political ideas that I disagree with. But here we go. And I quote: "The Constitution includes no such references. It's a text strictly secular. Yet its framers firmly believed that Republican government they were creating could only last it was deeply rooted in morality and religion. A republic can be only supported by pure religion or obscure morals," Jarlam said. "The Bible offers the only system that ever did or ever preserved a republic in the world. Our Constitution was made for a moral and religious people." Washington agreed. "Reason and experience both forbid us to expect that natural morality can prevail in the exclusion of religious principles. The happiness of the people, good order, and civil government, the Massachusetts of 1780 declare essentially depend on piety, religion, and morality." And 50 years later, after the Constitution was adopted, Tocqueville reported that all Americans hold religion to be indispensable to the maintenance of the Republic institutions. This opinion to a class of citizens or to a party, but it belongs to the whole nation and to every rank of society. That's
Okay. Now,
I'm not.
now reiterate what your point, or sort of
Yes, here's a
summarize that for
summation.
me. What your point is with that?
okay. This is to say that the founding fathers understood the importance of civic institutions and how to preserve their republic, and they view religion and morality to be totally important as the way. I misworded that, but they views religion and morality to be totally important to preserve their republic, especially during its early days. And later,
Reflected though.
um,
I don't
later,
think that you're interpreting that correctly. To be honest with you, I mean, look at
It's not
I
reflected
understand
in the
for
document.
I'm trying to
for
summarize in my own words, so please
I,
forgive me.
but here's the thing. Look, I understand that the founding fathers would probably want to consider some types of morality for society. I think as a society we have to consider morality, but I don't know exactly where you're getting the religious aspect. The reason why they had a separation of church and state was mainly because of the fact that they didn't want things devolving like it was between the Quakers and the Protestants, and the fact that we had left England over religious differences and things of that nature. So they recognized
Right.
that people were going to have discord. They're going to have different religious beliefs. That's why they didn't want to have any kind of state-sanctioned, government-run churches. They didn't want anything in the government relating to religion and to the state. They all kind of had some kind of deistic beliefs. I think that's probably ubiquitous for that time period, right? And a lot of them, even Thomas Paine in Age of Reason had mentioned that he hoped for salvation after death, but he didn't accept Christianity. But he wanted some kind of
Thomas
eternal life,
Jefferson
like most people.
Thomas
But
Jefferson tore the parts of the Bible he didn't like out of the book and
Yeah,
created his own. Create the Jefferson Bible. Yeah, he took out the pieces that he didn't agree with. I mean,
yep,
these are
most,
these are not the sort of Christians that I think people have in their minds that built this nation. When people say that we were founded on Christian principles, I mean
but
it's not reflected anywhere.
but okay. Let me be more clear, more precise for you guys.
Sure.
Okay. We can all agree that they clearly wanted a secular government,
Mm-hmm.
but there should be a distinction between civil society and how to govern. And I'm stating that they understood that a national morality that having morality and religion was key maintaining maintaining their society, maintaining their polity, their political social order.
How are
And
they
they
going about
viewed
it
it
though?
as they view religion as a safe as a mechanism, as a safeguarding mechanism for a healthy society, so people won't get too um that
How are
people
they
won't
doing that
get
though?
too demoralized.
But did you
By
not hear
what
what
means
Kyle
were they
said?
doing that? By what means were they doing that?
By what means?
Yeah.
By what means were they
How are they
establishing that?
yeah, how are they ensuring that there was a morality that safeguarded that religion safeguarded? How are they
Yeah, I don't
implementing
see
that?
the correlation there. I don't see the mechanism by which that would be occurring either. And again, as Kyle pointed out, these people were ripping out things of the Bible they thought were deviant, demonic, or evil. Not, and I don't mean demonic as they actually thought they were demonic, but as Paine pointed out, somebody, if you're reading this stuff, it would be the words of an evil god or something of a demon rather than a benevolent being in their mind, right? So they wouldn't get their morality from reading the Bible. I don't think that's not where I
They
think it
actually
stems
did
from.
most of them detested
But
organized
but
religion.
you
Like
guys are talking
Yeah.
about their more personal views on religion, how they ultimately
They
feel.
were the
I'm just
founding
saying that
fathers. That's the whole
it,
point.
yeah.
I'm stating that the
So
founding fathers view that religion was a necessary in preserving their republic. This is coming from like from a more political, if not more secular way of viewing things. Like they
you're
view religion
they
as
pretended.
safeguarding civil
I, I, I,
society
I
in
think
that
They
honestly,
sense.
Vol,
pretended.
I think honestly, they viewed it as a necessary evil just to keep
Yeah, they
societal
pretended.
harmony. Yep. I mean, that's the way I read when I read into the stuff, and I took civics and all that stuff too. And I always kind of had this position most of my life. So this
Now,
is nothing
no,
really new.
don't you think, Volt? Just take a second and think about this. Don't you think that that is the entire reason for religion being created in the first place? To do exactly what you're suggesting the founding fathers did, even if they didn't believe a word of it. They used it as a means to sort of control the population, keep them in line, make sure things didn't get out of hand. As long as you think that there's a big scary guy in the clouds that's going to send you to hell if you do wrong, people won't get, for the most part, too out of line. Isn't that the entire reason religion? Isn't it that's just serving its purpose?
No.
In what way is it not?
On religion, throughout our social evolutions, throughout our history, was meant to um, religion was meant to conceptualize reality and to um to provide certain answers to certain questions. It was to understand our nature, our behaviors, our dispositions, and what
It
not
does none of
to do, and what not to
that.
do, what is considered to be immoral. That the Greek, this is to say that the Greeks viewed their gods as a conceptualization of reality of the set of certain set of behaviors or social pathology,
It does
and
none of that, though.
and
It answers
this
no
is going to
questions.
it's going to classical theism and how they view things. But anyway, but in and after the, the era of antiquity, that's what it's called, right? But when when around the 18th century, around the 19th century, I assume you guys heard of Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations, right? He
Yes.
noted, okay, he
No.
noted, like he noted this rapid change. He is noticing the effects of the revolution and type of social effects on these people, how people were transitioning into rural life to industrial, to rural farmers into industrial cities and factories. And he noted that churches provided a certain type of mental strength and fortitude, a certain type of resistance to these daunting changes. It provided people the strength to adjust to these rapid changes. And
No
this
argument
is
there,
to
but what
say
does that
that
have?
religion provide a mental strength to these people who are just coming out of just becoming out of an agrarian era to the industrial age.
Do you not think they would be able to do that if they didn't have those churches? Let's say that the churches didn't exist. Do you not think that they would keep on keeping on? That is the only thing that was keeping them between some hope and despair? That church? Because I would argue that if you take those churches away, they're still going to find a way to plow through. They're still going to find something to put that sort of trust in, or that love in, or that hope in. If not a building, it'll be their family, their friends, some sort of mission. But they will still continue.
Like, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to describe that's something that already happened before. And in the modern context, where I think you're trying to head towards, we do have, I'm willing to concede that we do have other mechanisms for that to that function that religion used to provide it. We do have other more secular means to deal with these rapid changes that people are facing. But we're talking about something that happened about nearly 250 years ago. And
Right.
yeah, just
But
it's
we didn't have another alternative, though. That's my point. See, I think rather than saying that this nation was founded on Christian principles, I do think that you have a case if you were to say, has religion influenced our institutions? Has religion had sort of an impact on the way that we either operate within these institutions, or who gets elected to these institutions? Then yes, religion absolutely has had an impact. But I think it's absolutely false to say that this nation was created on a framework that is based in anything close to Christianity or any sort of religion. I mean, it actively worked against that.
But if we're talking about civic culture or just culture in general, I think my case will become more stronger. I'm not talking about in terms of actually running the country, actual governments actually ruling the country, but on a more decentralized level, that the role of religion become more prevalent, and what role it played on a more decentralized level.
But that's based on an impact that it had. If you're talking about outside of the framework that was built for the Constitution in this country, you're talking about how things operated on a sort of a day-to-day basis. Yes, absolutely, religion had an impact on that, but that's not saying the same thing as this nation was founded on principles like this. Like, they went in and founded this country and wrote its Constitution based on the framework of a Christian religion. That's absolutely false.
Okay. See what you're saying there, but well, I'm staying. Okay. Let's see.
Well, wait. If you see what he's saying, then I don't really follow your argument much. I mean, it's kind of, but are you accepting it? I mean, it's kind of a given with all the historical accounting that we have, that the founding fathers and the people that had drafted and ratified the Constitution, none of these people really were founding the country on any particular belief, especially Christianity. They were not sitting there going, okay, let's write this as if we would coming from a Christian mindset or a Jewish mindset, or a Turkish mindset, as Paine was talking about the Turks. None of them had that mindset. Matter of fact, as Kyle pointed out, they explicitly wanted to avoid anything like that, for good reason. The separation of church and state was a well-established principle in their mind when they were drafting these things. So when you make the argument that this country was established in some sort of Christian bias or religious bias. That just doesn't follow. Now you can definitely say, as Kyle said, that there was religious influence. The schools back then were mostly religiously run. The money was with the churches. They were the ones that if you wanted to get a good education, you went to a good Catholic school or good Christian school, and you had to learn alongside of the sciences, the religious aspect too. You had to do Bible study and things of that nature. So in that regard, yes, but it wasn't because of the religion that we became a society. It wasn't because of religion people got educated. It was just almost a coexistential trait that was something that along the lines of, you want to study the sciences, you've also got to study the religion as well. So something that was a right along with it, if anything else.
By the way, Volt, don't read the live chat. I saw that you posted that the live chat was unforgiving. You never want to read the live chat when you're having a discussion.
Well, it's
It'll throw
definitely
you off.
unforgiven,
It'll
and
get
people think I'm a theocracy now, when I'm not really arguing for a theocracy. I'm more so arguing
No, I don't think you're
that
arguing for. I don't think you're arguing for theocracy.
they'll get in your head, Volt. Don't read the live chat. I don't even read the live chat when I'm talking.
Okay, but anyway, I understand your point. I understand that our government, our constitution, was not exactly founded on religious principles. It was founded on principles that was in the alignment at the time. So there's Locke, Second Treatise of Government, and Paine, and maybe some Hosbian, maybe some Thomas Hobbes influence. But if my case were to be made, if I actually framed it properly, I was just talking about how religion played a role in civic society, and how it factors into America's national identity, how it defined itself. And
Now see
I
that is a
made
different.
I made several mistakes.
That's a different argument.
Mistakes, not for
That's
not
fair.
being clear enough. But
hang on, Vol, that's a different argument, and I think
would
all of
agree
us
with
would
you
probably
on that.
agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. But that is different than the argument that you wanted to make originally, which was that we are. I'm not even looking at the that the religious principles shaped our political and structural institutions. That these principles were the framework that our country was built on. That's a completely different argument. With what you just said, I would actually agree with you. I think that you have a you have a case there.
And I made that mistake because of my poor wording. I wasn't really. But anyway,
And that's okay. Now that you said that, now I think that now can you say that the United States was not founded on Christian principles?
I can't say that.
You can't say that.
So close. So close.
Wait, hold on. I want to be sure.
There.
You said that you can't say that. That's with an NT, right?
Yeah, I can't say that. I can't say that. It's really definitive.
So we still have an issue.
Because it,
okay, at least we're getting somewhere. Okay, so now tell me why you can't say that.
Okay. It's what's considered to be foundational to America's development as a nation, country, and our Constitution was something when the Puritan arrives around, I want to say maybe around the 1650s, 1670s, around that time period. And they form what is considered to be foundational to American democracy, this precursor text, which was definitely inspired by their religious principles specifically. And I forgot what this document is called. It was considered to be almost like their own social contract. I know, like their own bonding contract. Let me look this up. But
sure, go ahead. But that did not make it into the document that framed this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think you're going to get where you want to go there, Volt. I mean, you and I all agree on the influence, but there's just no argument I think you can make to make a rational case that the Constitution or the founding fathers had framed framed the Constitution or country on any kind of religious or Christian values or beliefs or anything like that. It's just this country was
Yes.
not founded on Christianity. That's just not
Yes.
a true statement.
People-
It's a false statement. So
people
I don't know
had-
why I can't accept that.
People had religion. I mean, nobody's arguing that. But when you have the who you said, who by your own words was the most religious of the presidents or these founding fathers, when you have him say clearly in black and white, the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. That is a direct statement from the most religious of the founding fathers saying that this country is not by any means founded on a Christian religion. That document was then signed by him and ratified unanimously. There was not one individual that dissented from that vote. Not one. Unanimous. I mean, that is a screaming that is a screaming refutation to what you just said, that this country was founded in any way, shape, or form on Christian values. I mean, I don't know how you get around that.
Yeah, this is from their own words. I mean,
John,
there was no dissenters. They all ratified. I mean, they were all on board on this, and there was not even a dissenting opinion on anything. I mean, nobody argued that I'm aware of. Maybe they did. I mean, if you maybe look in the archives or something. But as far as I know, there was just nobody standing up and arguing otherwise from what my recollection. If there is, please let me know. But at the same time, though, at the end, they all signed it. So
now, can we say that the United States was not founded? Can you agree with the most religious of our founding fathers and say the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion?
I can say the government. I could say that the government was not founded by anything, but man,
the government is the country.
Yeah, that's kind of a difference without a distinction there. I mean, the government is the country. We're talking about how the government was formed.
What about America's national identity? What's about how America defined itself as a nation?
That's different.
Now you're talking about cultural references. That's a completely different.
That's completely different. That's totally different from what it's founded on. Its identity, I would, like I said, would agree with you that it is a nation of Christians and not a Christian nation. There's a big distinction there. It is a nation made up of mostly Christians.
But that's a societal reasoning, right? I mean, people would consider America to be more of a Judeo-Christianic a country, just like the Arab countries are more Islamic. This is how it's viewed because of the society, not because of the founding fathers. You're talking about identity. You're talking about a societal thing. You're not talking about the founding fathers constructing the Constitution or the foundation of our government. So if you capitulate that the government is secular and the government was not founded upon Christian values and Christian theology, then you pretty much have to agree with Kyle asking you, was this country founded upon government or something on Christian values or Christian beliefs? Well, no, it wasn't. You've already agreed to that. And so I think your argument at this point, I'm sorry, my friend, it's DOA. It's not going to go anywhere because you move the goalposts now into something completely different. Look, I would be the first person to be on your side if this was the case, right? I love to bump heads with Kyle. People know this, but I mean, he's absolutely right on this.
Do you see any similarities between Muslim nations that sort of build their foundational groundwork on they have Sharia law? Their countries, everything is tied in with some sort of religion aspect. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you see any similarities between us and any of the Islamic countries?
No.
Okay. Now, are they founded in religion, or are they founded upon any sort of religion?
Yes.
Right. So that's my point. If we were a country that was founded on any type of religious aspect, the word God would appear somewhere. It doesn't.
And Okay,
We
you're
the
right.
people, not by our deity. Okay, you just said okay, good. Now we perfect. See how we came to an amicable ending to this? I agree
Well, it's
with you
also my
wholeheartedly.
fault because I worded myself really poorly.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I'll give you this. Look at
It's
whether
okay.
we're founded on Christianity or not is irrelevant to whether Christianity is true or not. So I mean, even I have to like at least explain that to you that just because we're not founded on a Christian belief system does not mean that Christianity it doesn't weigh anything on whether Christianity is true or not. So by capitulating by saying that we're not founded upon Christianity, it doesn't change your religious beliefs at all. It shouldn't, in my opinion.
Well, I was not going there. I guess just realizing,
Okay.
wow, I probably should have worded myself really like much better earlier.
Okay. Now
Well, I think we have a kumbaya moment. Yay.
you have a point though. You have a point when it comes to the influence of religion. Now that is America is almost entirely motivated to some degree through history by religion. It's on
What
our
about
money.
Europe?
It's in our court. It's in our courts. What was that?
What about Europe?
Europe's interesting. It's I
Because
think
earlier
you
I kind of made a point that was kind of over the place about Peace of Westphalia, the universality, the
mhm.
the Protestant Reformation. I probably should talk about the Counter Reformation and how those revolutions, those social changes, ultimately
Yeah.
formed their modern governments. Like
It may have led to change that caused governments to either change how they do things, but that in no way had an impact on America's founding. In fact, they were leaving. They were trying to get away from the religion of England. I mean, they. That's the whole reason we came over here. They were getting away from that. Now, those countries over there, it's interesting that they are founded on a religion. The Church of England,
Mhm.
started by Henry VIII when he broke away from the Catholic Church. Ever since then, has been a nation that is the Queen is still the head of the church. That is a nation that is absolutely founded on religion. In fact, some of their bloodiest years were over religion. Mary and all of the many people that she butchered for being Protestant, and then when Elizabeth took over, switching it back over to Protestantism's okay, but being Catholic's not. It was a mess. But yes, those countries were founded on religion. Now it's interesting now that those are some of the most secular.
yeah. So how this conversation been going? Has this been interesting or boring? I can't tell by you guys'
It's
faces.
interesting for me because I love history.
What about you, guy with the white beard and who seems to be from Mississippi?
No, I'm in Cali. No, I mean it's not one of my favorite subjects, but I find it interesting. I mean, I like history. I like civics, but I think the first 80% of your argument was just word salad to me. But I think we pulled
Oh,
it out at
come
the
on, that's
end.
not fair.
You asked my opinion. I mean, I'm dude. I'm straight. I'm a straight
Well,
shooter. Um,
to be fair, you did call
I
us
didn't make
an interesting.
I couldn't make heads. Yeah, and I couldn't make heads or tails of it. And look at I don't if I don't understand something, I'm the first person to go, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I have no qualms of looking like an idiot on certain topics that I just don't know shit about. I know enough about this particular topic only because I had civics like anybody else, but and I have done some reading on it. But Kyle's more versed on it because it's one of his more. He actually really enjoys this subject. But I mean, as overall, yeah, it was interesting. I guess it's just I do think
Uh,
your argument was really bad.
okay, what I was thinking about we were going to talk about Europe for a little while and talk about the Reformation, then 30 Years
That
War.
doesn't
Because,
that doesn't help your argument though.
Yeah, I don't
huh?
see how it does either.
That wouldn't have helped your
No,
argument
like,
though.
well, if we're going back to my main claim that did religion shape political and cultural institutions, um,
Right? It didn't.
it would have I would have explained the impact impact of those events after the fall of the Roman Empire, and how I
It
don't
has
want
something to do with America.
wait. Should we get into this topic? Because I kind of like talking about this.
Probably
Well, I like reading about this kind of stuff.
But that has nothing to do with that wouldn't have had anything to do with America, though. You see that, right?
At
We were
all.
talking about America.
Yeah, I think that's. Oh, can we talk about it anyway? Like to change the topics, to, like keep the stream going for other
Sure.
maybe a good 30, 45 minutes.
Sure.
If you guys are up to it.
I'm up to it.
Guy with a beard.
What
I
you
want to
got?
call you Matt. Is your name Matt?
Sure.
You can call him Matt.
Anything you want. Yeah.
What's your name?
Oh, wait. Is that? Did you
Well,
pick
last
Matt
time
on
I
purpose?
checked, my mom and dad, they told me my name was Steve, and I have no reason to doubt their integrity and think
I
that
think
they
you
were lying
picked.
to me for some reason.
Listen,
So I went with
vote.
it.
If you picked Matt on purpose, then kudos to you for that is genius. But if you didn't, then that was a damn lucky guess because I don't think you could have picked a better name to call him.
I was well. Let's say a bit of both.
I'm so confused.
Okay, let's roll with it. What you got, man?
Okay.
He's calling you Matt because of Matt Dillahunty, Steve.
Yeah. Well, I got that part, but I mean,
okay.
Because you remind me of a guy. You remind me of Matt Dillahunty with the beard and the.
Okay, that's where he was going. Okay. No, Matt. I don't know if you looked at Matt recently. He has very little hair. I mean, I don't think that him look really anything like.
You kind of just remind me of him a little bit. But anyway,
Okay.
What do you know
I'll
about
take it as a
European
compliment,
history? Which should we start at?
Just call him G-Man, Steve. We'll be even.
JKG.
Getting both.
No, he's no G-Man. He definitely is much more well-read than G-Man because I don't think G-Man knows how to read, but
probably not. So what about the fall of the Roman Empire, Volt?
Oh, right. That's all right. The fall of the Roman Empire and then how everything sort of became fragmented politically. There was kingdoms and okay. I'm trying to figure out which time period I want to start with. I tend to know more about the 15, more so about I tend to study international relations a little bit. So that's why I brought up the Peace of Westphalia of 1648, and also I'm interested in other stuff, but I tend to focus on Western diplomacy, statesmanship, people like Bismarck or Cardinal Reclus.
Now,
cool.
Let me ask you this: what about this? Are we going to disagree with? Because like if you want to have like a chat about history, we absolutely can do that. And I would like to get someone in here that can sort of speak to the time period that you're talking about. But like I wanted to make sure that if you're going to go down this road that it pertains to what the topic is, so that we don't switch gears too dramatically. That it relates to.
It relates to religious traditions and principles and governments, and at the time, religion did have a major impact of governments, wars, and many other quite horrible stuff too. But
here's what we need to do. We need to. I've just looked at the time; it's already 10:30. We need to probably table that so that we have time to do it for another discussion. But for the next 15 minutes. I want to ask you about your personal faith and how you're using it, like today. Like when you think of an atheist or an anti-theist like myself, or an agnostic like Steve, what is going to happen to Steve or I when we pass away, if we ever pass away? I plan on living forever, but let's just say it doesn't happen. What happens to Steve and I?
I don't really care what you believe, dude.
Hey, Kyle, don't you believe assholes only live forever? You can't live forever. You're not an asshole.
I am a little
Only
bit.
assholes live
I'm just
forever.
I'm just curious
We need
based
to
on your
become more
religion,
assholes.
like because here's this is my point. Every Christian that we have come on, I try to ask this question to, and I've tried to ask every single one of them that's been on here, and so far everybody's answer is completely different, and I find that fascinating. So I'm just wondering, based on the religion that you adhere to, whatever that is, what happens to people who don't believe when they die?
I personally don't really care what happened to you guys. I'm more concerned about what's happening with my life. But anyway, but
Hey,
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
I
fair
don't
enough.
want to give you like a honestly. I don't want to give you a
sure,
straight answer. Like um,
sure, that's honest.
it's to me is like it's honestly how you live your life and what I consider to be virtuous. And if you're a reasonably good person, a coherent moral agent, I view
Hmm.
you to be a very fine man, a very good person, a strong, a dedicated citizen. You know,
Hmm.
like
So
just it
here's the
ultimately depends how you live your life, and it also sort of depends what kind of mood I am too. So
sure.
just
So here's a question. Aren't you sort of commanded to care what happens to people when they die?
no, no, I'm
You're
not.
not. You're not supposed to pray for those who aren't don't know the way of God. You're not supposed to go out and spread the word or testify
I don't.
any of that stuff.
I believe that to be wrong on many
Mm.
levels. I don't believe that
Now,
people
now
should.
that's interesting.
I don't like evangelicals or those type of
Uh-huh.
people who actively go around spread the word of God. I don't really like Jehovah Witnesses either, but
Hmm.
because kind of
So
cultish and
you're
kind of
kind of
crazy and out there. But
and I'm not
um,
disagreeing with you, by the way. I'm really
Now
not.
that's interesting.
Evangelicals are some radical people, but you're kind of picking and choosing here, are you not? And I mean, are you just by fiat saying, hey, you know what?
Well,
Even though this is in the Bible and God commands this stuff, I don't like this, so I'm going to do what Thomas Jefferson did and just rip off pages and
he's
stuff that
not a
I don't
no,
Bible
like.
literalist, though.
I'm not
He's
picking
not a
and
Bible
choosing.
literalist.
This is just more like what I
Well,
think.
I think
What
you
I
are.
think is
That is picking and choosing. You're literally
it's
doing
like
exactly that. You think that it's not right. You're picking and choosing, which seems to be a pretty stalwart, thing from God, that you're supposed to go out there and convert the non-believer. That seems to be the Christian narrative, if I'm not mistaken on that. Is that
I
true, Kyle?
I prefer the pickers and choosers though. Like I absolutely
I'm
would
I'm
take pickers and
I'm
choosers
not.
over.
Yeah, no, I'm not faulting it. I'm really not. But
I
I'm
think
just
that
have to throw it out
I think
there.
we should but you know what? He's not a Bible literalist though. So I mean like you can't like
Fair
I
enough.
can't fault him because he's sticking true, he's not he doesn't believe
Yeah,
that
that's true.
the book is a uh, so essentially now see this is fascinating to me. This is what I really love is trying to figure out where your sort of your framework is founded. Um,
um,
go ahead.
just when I think about is Chad, are you still there? Am I gone?
Yes.
No,
No,
it's
you're
fair
still
enough.
here.
Okay. When I think of religion, my religion, I tend to like when I get into these like public spheres debates, and you notice my profile is Nietzsche, right?
Right. Very interesting
And
choice.
and it's when I view my own personal religion, it's more so about insulating me from certain aspects of certain aspects about society I particularly don't like. I don't really like this culture of narcissism that's been going on since the 1970s. Also, I recommend the book Cultural Narcissism by Christopher Lash because that's a really good read if you know what I'm
Hmm.
talking about. But I just sort of just view myself just sort of just insulating myself from the more worst assets, the terrible assets of modernity in and of itself. That's how I tend to view,
Interesting.
view
Here's
things on
okay.
more
Sure.
things like.
Here's my question for you then. I think you have a point. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Where you're sort of writing your own religion in a way. You're taking the parts that you think fit within your life and that seem to be the right way, and leaving the parts that don't make any sense to you. Sort of, but so long story short, if you're writing your own story, why write religion in it at all? If you don't believe the Bible is literal, why take any of the pieces? Why not just throw the whole book out and just be a decent person without having any sort of um, false sense of loyalty to a deity? Why not throw the whole book out?
Okay, why do I look up to a god? Why do I kind of place God up there? Like, it's for me like my personal relations with my God or your God or the Christian God, like all those gods, all that other nonsense. But why I place religion as an important role, because I do believe that religion will always going to have a place in people's lives, and how either they define themselves by it or against it. And I choose myself to be I choose myself to be defined by it, because when I look at the modern world, I find it to be I find it to be um,
In
not
peril?
not terrible, but disappointing. Well, way the directions of society is trending towards. I don't
What
like clown world. I view the real world to be clown world. Like,
what direction is that? What direction is that? What direction is the world going in?
this is gonna nonsense. Okay,
Is it going in a
it's
bad direction?
huh?
Is it
A
going in a bad direction?
so, in my view, sort of like.
How?
Okay.
Because if you look at what we're leaving, we left slavery, we left women being second class citizens, we left warring all the time over land, we left diseases wiping out half the planet, we left famine, pestilence, starvation for the most part. Well, at least we're able to get a better grip on it. It's not like it used to be. We left all that in the past. And look at where
Yes,
we are now.
I can agree with
We
the
are we are
technological economic progress. What you're saying is that your point. I can
even the
agree
social
what
aspect.
we are doing far much better comparable to most of human history. But
Sure.
on a more spiritual level, I see it to be decaying and hollowing out. I find people to be just. I find people to
More
be
accepting,
well.
less
Well,
religious,
what
more accepting
I
and less religious.
I say we're living in the era of the no, I'm not sure. I probably should not say that, but we're just living in a sort of this weird era of the last man, as Nietzsche would put it, like the era of the last man. I see people the way he defines to be the last man, he defined it as people who actively enjoy this world but only just pursue meaningless um meaningless
Let me stop you there.
consumption and
Let me stop you there just for a second. Meaningless is following an ancient book that has been proven over and over and over to be false, to have contradictions, and to lead to nothing but bloodshed and discrimination and violence. That is a meaningless existence. To live in this world and to acknowledge the fact that you are in this world now and you only get one of these, and to live it in a world where disease can be kept at a minimum. It doesn't spread. We can feed people. We are more accepting of people. We're more loving towards people. We don't keep them as property anymore. We don't say that because you love somebody of the same sex, you're a lesser human. We are moving in a direction to where people can actually be who they want in a world with technology like never before, with amenities like never before, and without the worry that because they don't believe in something that is meaningless, they are going to be either shunned, killed, or whatever else that they used to do to people who were heretics in history. That is not a worse world. That is not a world that is on a bad track. That is an amazing world. That is a beautiful world. That is a world that should absolutely be.
But what I'm trying to go with this here is that I generally don't like modernity. I don't really like the long-term effects of it. Like God, the famous declaration that God is dead and we have killed him. That wasn't. It was a great opportunity to create our own values, to be self-sustaining. It also created a certain dread that we left ourselves open to the darkness. This is to the darkness, and we must resist that. And for a very long time, religion provided that, and now it's no
It
longer
was the
there.
cause of that. Religion was
That
the cause of that darkness. How much bloodshed has that book caused? The Crusades, the witches that were even as early as the 1600s in this country that were hung by the neck or crushed with stones or drowned or burned alive because a book said, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." What is the body count that book has? It has been a book of just nothing but torment since its inception. Its sole purpose was to divide people between the believers and the non-believers, and it's always the non-believers that got the worst end of the stick in every situation. That book has not been a safe haven of refuge. It has been a source of fear and control and death by every single nation that has held it at its chest to lead it. Every one of them.
I can, like, on a more superficial level, I can agree with that. But I'm just saying that how I view the modern world, how people are living day to day. I just kind of view people to be
Do you know
just
why?
wandering
Yeah. Do you know why
aimlessly.
do you know why you think that? Because the book tells you that you should. Because the book says when people stop listening to my words of divisiveness, when they stop acknowledging that these words have any true meaning, this is when you'll know the end days are. This is when you should, oh, woe unto you. It trains you to when you see the world going in a way that it should, because the book no longer has those chains on the ankles and wrists of people. They broke free of them. To you, that looks like they're breaking free in rebellion, that this is a horrible thing, but they're breaking free of the weight and the lies and the things that it makes you do. It makes you think horrible things about people and makes you treat people in a way that if it weren't there in any other circumstances, you wouldn't treat people. This
Hey,
this
I
life is
like
this
you,
life is
but
beautiful, and I like you too. But you know what? But if you adhere to that religion like you say you do, I have to burn in hell just because I like or I choose to love people of my own sex. Now, you have to say that that's not your rule. That's the God's rule. But that is your religion. And if you're going to call yourself a Christian, you have to carry that baggage with that. Like, that is something that you can't shake off. You can't pick and choose in the long run that. If it's like God says it is, and the Christian God that you follow, I'm an abomination because of who I choose to love. Love being the key word, not who I choose to hate or discriminate against. I'm choosing to love somebody of the same sex, and for that, I am an abomination. Now, does that seem rational to you? Speaking honestly, does that sound rational to you?
I can agree what you're saying here. I don't hate you. I think you're a very charming person, but
Thank you. I think the same thing about you. But here's my point. If you think that, I won't make you answer, but if you think that is irrational, why are you choosing to spend your entire life dedicated to something that is going to make you believe something that is irrational? Just for the fact of believing it. No reason why, no explanation. It doesn't make sense. Why put your entire life that you have ahead of you into a deity that is willing to burn people alive for eternity just for who they love? Is that a God worthy of worship for all of eternity? You don't have to answer that. I'm not going to make you answer that either. Is it rational to think that people, just for the simple fact that they disbelieve, should burn in hell? Yet a murderer or a rapist, if on their deathbed they confess and they believe in God, they should spend eternity in heaven with potentially the people that they raped or murdered. But the atheist that lived a relatively decent life, he should perish and burn in all of hell for eternity just because the evidence wasn't great enough for him to say, yeah, I'll go along with that. That is that is that's the most irrational thing I've ever heard. And you seem very rational, so I don't see how you can sort of hitch your wagon to that star.
Or even worse, how about something along the lines of a baby that's doomed to hell because you never even heard of Jesus Christ or something, and people saying that, oh, if an infant dies, without being baptized or whatever, then they're condemned for eternity. I mean, don't you think that's completely irrational? I mean, would you not agree that that is something that's beyond the pale of rationality, of rational thought? To think that benevolent, to use the term benevolent deity to condemn an infant that had no say in the matter one way or another, just because the parents didn't get him baptized or something. Does that make any sense to you?
no, it doesn't.
Okay. At
Okay.
least, I mean,
Well,
so
at least you're honest.
there's rationality there. Yeah, at least you're honest, because anybody who thinks otherwise than that, I don't find to be a very rational person, because that's
Right.
not even, I think, something that can be
And
deliberated upon.
I'm not gonna berate you anymore because you answered that honestly. But if you can say honestly that that's not rational, I think you really need to take a look at what you are, because look, it's shaping your entire outlook on life. You said a second ago, and I think it's a heartbreaking thing to hear, that you look at this world and you find it to be just sort of miserable, and like when you that's the religion making you think that. If you looked at it through like my eyes, life is beautiful. There's the thing that makes this life
I
so
think life
beautiful is that,
beautiful is too. I just find this world to be like depressing.
that's what I'm saying. That's what's heartbreaking. If you look around at what people can do nowadays, their minds, the fact that everybody's different, and we bring something to the table, we're able to create and do things. We made it so that you could get any answer that you wanted to at the blink of an eye, right in your pocket. That we can communicate right now and be in completely different locations. That this show can be broadcast in the countries that haven't banned us, and to all of these countries every night with these wonderful people that watch. Life is absolutely beautiful, and it's heartbreaking to see that you don't see that. You just see it as you're not a fan of this world. This is the only one that you get. It's the only one that you get, and you should spend your time living it to the fullest, 100%. So it's your life, man. You do what you got to do what you got to do, but really think, man, like really think about the rationality questions. Are these things rational?
The reason why I place my faith in God or in any God for that matter, because I do not always trust human reason of itself. I do not trust pure human reason, and I personally I personally hate to see a society that is based on pure logic and reason. And like, this is sort of just going into my politics and how my politics, my political philosophy. Like, I generally, the reason why I don't like Thomas Paine, because he did have this feminization of human reason, and he did actively supported something that was terrible in Europe. And I find myself in this position that I view human reason to has and limitation and to be flawed in general. And I find myself in a position that I can place my faith in I can in an unfallible God. You know, this God sense of humor can be rather cruel, sarcastic, and well, yeah, many,
He's a
and many
sociopath.
other.
He's a psychopath. He's a psychopath.
Well, I find his sense of humor to be cruel, sarcastic. That's pretty much it. That's
Oh yeah. So, are you okay with worshiping somebody that has a cruel and sarcastic sense of humor for eternity? I'm not.
I'm okay with I'm okay with that eventually. I'm okay with the meta narrative of Christianity that we have fallen, and that everything that we're currently going through is part of a self-healing process. I'm okay with that
Whose fault
overarching
was it?
narrative.
Whose fault was it?
That Christ-
Let's walk through this real quick. Whose fault was it that we fell? You're not a Bible literalist, so if you don't believe in the Adam and Eve story, where did we fall?
But yeah, I tend to interpret the Bible to be allegorical and metaphorical.
Okay, so if Adam and Eve exist?
No,
Okay, so then where did we fall? If no one ate of that tree, what was our ultimate crime?
Why was there a need for atonement? Why was there a need for
Right.
crucifixion? Why was there a need for Christ?
If they didn't exist, why did Jesus have to die for that? Where did original sin come from? Where did we fall? You didn't ask yourself these questions. Do you? You just go along with it. This is the problem.
I don't.
You've never asked yourself that question, have you?
I've never thought I'd be having this conversation at all during this time of day and night.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe it's a good thing that you are, because you're following and believing that mankind is flawed, that we're born sick and commanded to be well, without any shape, any basis whatsoever for why you believe that. You have zero reasons for why you believe the mindset that you have right now, and it's because you've never asked yourself, you've never questioned it.
I tend to interpret things to be, when I look at the Bible, I just viewed it to be a mostly allegorical, if not fables, fairy tales, not something you cannot take literally. I don't really view it to be a valid historical document, but
Right. Okay. So in that case, why is mankind fallen? If you don't believe anything that the Bible says, where are you getting your belief system from? What do you believe?
Well,
Was
how is it any
Jesus
different?
real?
Wait, well, yeah, was Jesus? Do you believe Jesus existed? Are you a mythicist or a historicist?
I believe that for now. I have not really looked into the research, but I tend to view Jesus most part to be a historical figure, but I'm not sure.
Okay, was he
I'm not
divine?
really too convinced about the
Hang on, was he divine?
metaphorical, but about the stuff he did in the Bible, but I can, for most part, can agree with his teachings and how he views life, and I tend to view things to be about overcoming yourself. A lot of things. That's sort of like one of the
Okay, so
main themes of
it's got some
Christianity
good moral
about,
precepts.
it doesn't really tie into self mastery or stoicism, but it kind of ties in about the discovering
Okay,
yourself, about
okay.
overcoming these problems that
Well,
you currently
you're
face.
rambling. Hang on. Well, you're rambling. So I think we all agree there's probably some good moral precepts people can get from the Bible. I don't think that's a egregious statement. But how, but how are you taking the Bible from what Kyle was asking to be any different from something like the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? I love the Iliad and the Odyssey, right? Fantastic stories, right? I mean, I hold the whole whirlpool and the whole siren thing. I mean, that was just fantastic writing, right? But it was mythology. Yeah, okay, again, I'm the one that's usually the devil, playing, on your side. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here, but how is it that you take the Bible to be anything other than mythos if we recognize the fact that it is metaphorical and allegorical? Because I agree with you, most of it is metaphorical, and there is allegorical stories throughout the Bible. So why would it not be in the same realm as mythology as something along the lines as the Iliad and the Odyssey?
Say that again. Say what's the question again?
How is the Bible any different from the Odyssey or Greek mythology?
Well, I think it's
And
more
I got to say,
comparable
I
to the
love the Iliad
Iliad.
and the Odyssey. What's that?
Well, if you're taking at the Bible as a collection of stories, well, I'm actually changing the topic, but I don't know how to answer your question honestly. But
He wouldn't consider there to be a difference, Steve. I don't think. But I
Okay.
don't get what is your religion if you don't like what? Why do you believe what you believe? Like if you have you can't even cite the Bible as a basis for why you believe what you believe. So why not throw it all out? You're putting extra work on yourself with no foundation or basis that you can refer to as a reason for why you believe what you believe.
why I believe what I believe? Well, if I'm being honest, it's more of a emotional thing, a more emotional thing, the thing I felt
It's
in
a
my
comfort
life.
thing for
If
you.
I'm being
It's a
exactly.
comfort thing. Okay. Okay, fair enough.
Comfort. Okay.
Fair enough.
At least that's at least that's something we could actually discuss at another time, maybe.
Sure.
I can understand why people have a need for some of that stuff. That's at
Yeah.
least a valid thing to discuss.
I think it's
By the way, Vol, I got to admit, I find you to be at least honest in your
yeah.
responses. You are an honest interlocutor. I will give you huge props for that. And I'd rather have somebody I disagree with, or it may not make much sense sometimes, who's at least honest in their answers. That to me is a number one priority.
I think the comfort thing is actually to me one of the most legitimate reasons
It's
because
understandable. It's relatable.
it's what people build like church on the community and
Yeah.
their fear of being taken out of that or shunned from that or cast out or losing that fear of losing that
Totally.
comfort is absolutely understandable. It's like a security blanket sometimes. You're told that you're going to see your family and friends again one day. That death is not the final end. It's in many ways comforting. So I completely understand that.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I think tomorrow we're going to be talking along something along those lines with somebody who had
Right.
that happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good segue. Dave Gass,
Good segue.
he left a tweet yesterday talking about with over 4 decades being in the ministry. He was a pastor. He came out and announced to the world that he was now an atheist, and will be one of the first people to hear his story. He'll be here tomorrow at 9 p.m. It's going to be a very intense talk, very interesting talk. So I'm so thrilled that he agreed to come on here.
Yeah, his tweet
Volt,
went viral.
yeah, it did. It was like 20
Yeah.
pages long. It was huge. Volt, I'm going to give you the last words. You can sum up your positions. Tell us anything that you want us to know. Anything that you want to say while I pull up super chats.
Let's see. Well, I really wish I could have gone to my thoughts about how I don't like the modern world that much. You sort of this, but my how I view things is not exactly always been inspired by Christianity. Actually, been kind of inspired by a lot of other people who has discontent with the modern world. I'm somewhat of a traditionalist in some respects, but it's more so I tend to view the world to be that the world is just going that we are facing a new set of problems and we're not exactly overcoming it. Like this is just we're facing new problems in the 21st century. This stuff I view this to be the death of meaning. Like I don't really like trend of this trend of
Freedom.
this general narcissism that we see in our pop culture. This trend of just um, valuing just materialistic things. I want something that actually has deeper meanings about our actions and how we properly live our lives. In that sense, some ways a Stoic, some ways I'm Christian, in some ways I can be full blown Nietzschean if I really wanted to, but I don't always agree with them. But that's my take. That's my current
Sure.
beliefs anyway.
I think that you're you're trying to be as honest as you possibly can. I think that you're a good person. Like I can get that feeling from you. I just think that you're just like everybody else in this world. You're trying to find your place and trying to find the pieces that sort of define who you are and make you feel, like you said, comfortable. And we're all trying to do that. We're all trying to just stumble through this chaotic world, one step at a time. And the truth of the matter is, none of us know with absolute certainty what's on the other side of this plane. But we've got to try to do our best to make it there together and with doing the least amount of harm as possible. And
So
I think
you're
that
a
if you,
very charismatic, good speaker. You seem like you were as a preacher back in your. Uh,
I wanted to be, I wanted to be.
and you
I've had,
and you, Steve, you were a very competent and well articulate guest. Thank you for being candid with me when I asked you to be. Uh, Thank you for your
I'm
questions
actually a
and
host. So thanks.
challenging me when you think I was wrong.
I've been downgraded to guest. I went from
yeah,
co-host to guest. That's okay.
but yeah,
Thanks.
just like always do that, Volt. Like always think about it's what I'm doing the least amount of harm. And if there's another option, always go with that option. 9 times out of 10, religion will be an option that is causing harm. But I don't think you're a bad person. I just think you're just like all the rest of us, trying to
Oh, I know,
find our
although
way
I
through.
don't like utilitarianism as a moral system.
Well, we're gonna have to get you on again for the morality aspect. I think
I don't
Kyle
even
would
know. See,
agree
I
that
don't even know what that means.
yeah,
You never
well,
heard of utilitarianism? You never
I
heard
don't even
of
know what that means.
John Stuart Mill or
utilitarianism.
Jeremy Bentham?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
I
Don't
sure
know
I
you
have, but I
realize
don't.
that's an evil thing? Well, I
I don't
mean,
know what
form
don't
of
that
you
means.
realize it's an
consequentialism.
evil moral system on many levels?
Well, we can discuss that because, like I said, utilitarianism is a form of consequentialism. But yeah, I'm familiar with Mills, and we can get into some of the morality things another time. I'm sure Kyle would like to have you back. He likes to have his
Absolutely.
ego stroke
I
like that.
I
And
would
very
I
very
would
kind
call
to
it.
Kyle.
I wouldn't call it. What whatever words you just used. I just call it doing the least amount of harm. If there's a word for it, great. But the
It's
the t-
called
the
utilitarianism.
Yeah,
the
That's
term
to be
actually,
your.
I
the
would
term that guy.
believe it or not,
That's the term
Kyle.
that guy.
I would actually give you the Wiccans Creed. Do you know what the Wiccan Creed is?
No.
At least to bring no harm to others, do what thou wilt. And I actually like that creed.
So I'm Wiccan now.
Basically saying, yeah, it's a Wiccan creed. It's actually something about the Wiccanism that I always agreed with. That as long as it brings no harm to others, do what the hell you want.
Well,
Is basically what it is.
looks like we need to go to Hot Topic then.
Yeah, go Goth.
Hope
All
I
right,
was
so
an
let me
interesting
read.
guest to talk to.
You were. It was quite interesting. Now we'll read these super chats and then we'll call it a night. Brian Shannon, $2 says Kyle speaks first. 2,000 God points. Congratulations. You sir win. James Hogue, Kyle, does that haircut have a name? I suggest Gnome Over. Pragmatic Culture. Oh, Schnitz, it's Voltaire. Hi, Volt. Mark Beiser, discount Gnome Over. Oh, these are so hilarious. My Unfinished Journey. So he's not young Earth creationist, but he equates atheism with scientism, and he had the nerve to say, y'all aren't interesting. That is a good point, Volt. CI Lobotomy, LLC. I choose a nice pick to the eye. Cajun Drifter. The government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. John Adams. 0132132. Religious principles created representative government. I just took 100 years and coincided with good secular arguments in favor of representative government because reasons. Brian Shannon, watch what you say. We're calling you a radical, a liberal, a fanatical, a criminal. Supertramp featuring Thomas Paine. Piazza, there's a line separating influenced by and based on. The former should not be intentionally misled as the latter. That's very well said. Kaiman Win, if this country was truly founded on Christian principles, I would be in jail for having moral inspiration from Brahma instead of Yahweh. And Cisfredo Serabias, are gay Christians in love wrong in belief or not? Are gay Christians in love wrong in belief or not?
I
If
know,
gay
you tell
Christians,
me.
if there are gay Christians who are in love and they believe, yes, they are. In my opinion, they are wrong in belief. Um, I deal with this a lot. I've actually had two instances where I went on two dates with. I'm getting a little bit too personal, but I went on two dates with two people from Tinder, and they happened to be very staunch Christians. And one of them, it was actually a deal breaker. Like he could not proceed with any further potential because his faith would not allow him. Especially with this being no atheist and how he tries to, pluck up religion, root and stem every night. So, yes, they are wrong in their belief. And yes, it makes people, think and do things that I find to be not good. It's just my opinion. I think that it just alters the way people act towards other people. Brian G., what's wrong with the modern world? What would you rather live in? What era? That's a good question. You want to answer that? What era would you, if not this era, which era?
I can't wait. Why do people always go to when someone expresses discontent with the world they're living in? Why do people always assume you want to go back to something? I know.
Well, it's a fair question. I mean, if there's
I
not,
think it's
just
a
say
reasonable
there's not.
question.
Well, let's see. I don't want to go back to anywhere. Like you
Okay,
kind of have to
fair
move
enough.
forward. That's like the most realistic thing you could do. You need to keep on moving forward.
Well, listen, don't start believing in realistic things now. Well,
But that's sort of like detailing the people I read, like Nietzsche, Camus. I like reading essentialist literature.
mm-hmm. I could not go past. I could not go back in time anywhere past when air conditioning was created. I would literally die.
But
So
honestly, I love to live in 19th century Europe, specifically in England or Germany.
okay, fair enough. And then last but not least, Serbia, staying on topic, rationally, where does the atheist belong if America was founded as one nation under God, ramifications, self-delusion of citizens? Well, says Fredo, it was not founded on one nation under God. And where do atheists belong? Wherever the fuck they want to. And I think we just got one more that came in.
Yeah.
This says from Translator Cranium, utilitarianism, especially, may not quite be perfect, but I don't know how Volt can remotely call it evil. And then Wolf, that guy with the beard was a great guest. You should have him on the show more. I think he might even be co-host material because it's almost like he's done this before.
I'm hoping. Fingers crossed, man.
Hilarious.
Fingers crossed. Pray for me,
That's
people.
hilarious.
Pray for me.
Okay, so I want to thank. I want to really thank Volt for coming into the lion's den, so to speak, and speaking with the probably the two most uninteresting
Correction,
people
I
he
say
can.
slightly uninteresting.
Well, okay,
Yeah, don't make it worse than this, Kyle.
slightly. Even though I think the conversation started off a little shaky, but we ended up in a nice place. I hope Volt will take away some things that he heard tonight, as will I, and I think as should we all, like the fact that I don't like being called a discount garden gnome. Steve, anything else that you have for us tonight?
You know what? There was something, and it's totally escaping my mind now. So it's gonna have to wait till next time, I guess.
Okay. All right. Volt, let people know where they can find you if they want to check
I
out.
do recall, but I'll do it after Volt.
Okay.
You can follow me. You can follow my YouTube channel, which is called Frederick Voltaire Bastiat, where I host a lot of interviews with a lot of interesting people from all over the political spectrum. I actually would recommend to check out my Paul Godfrey video for anyone who's more conservative minded. And you can follow me on Twitter.
And what is your Twitter handle?
Voltaire 1778 underscore 8.
Cool. That's Voltaire 1778 underscore 8. All right.
That's
From Benjamin Franklin and George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, crazy ass Thomas Paine, and all of us here that helped build this nation. Good night, America, and the rest of the world.
Good night.
We love you.
Cool.